Welcome everyone to our Women Together session. A warm welcome, good afternoon, good morning. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. My name is Antoinette and I am the host of our Eileen Fisher Women Together Connect, and I have a wonderful team with Karen, Ella, and Ethi. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them as well. And I am seeing us already saying hello. So if you're here in the Zoom chat or in the YouTube comments, you can type in directly a little hello and where you're coming from, so we can share with each other. So I see a number of different places coming in, and just a reminder for those of you who may be new, a warm welcome to you as well. We have been meeting pretty much weekly for the last 2+ years, just over 2 years now. And really what we've been doing is just connecting with each other and giving a space for women to come together. And really one thing that I'm struck with is that in the early part of the pandemic, we said, no, women need to connect with each other. On a lot of fronts, we felt a need to shut down. We felt a need to go inwards. And I think the nature of this community and the team as well was what happens when women come together and when women connect. And that's actually what's going to help us get through this crisis. So if we can do that in a way that is protecting our health and safety, then let's keep doing it. And that's what sparked these conversations that have continued. So we have the conversation space and we have this wonderful Women Together Connect moment on Zoom. So it's absolutely wonderful. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic together as a community of practice. We're going to go into having courage. So I'll share a little bit of basically community practice. We'll do some meditation and then we'll do some journaling. But the idea is that we have tiny practices that we can take throughout any part of our day, because it's not something that you need to go out and kind of be in the woods somewhere and just meditate, although I love doing that. But it's really, how do we take that into our daily lives? How do we bring that into, just before we start a conversation, we do a tiny practice? How do we have resilience in a moment of crisis? So that's and it's needed now more than ever, right? So that's what we're doing here. And let's see where we're coming in from. So we have Winchester, Massachusetts, Berkeley, California, to be connected, she says, Arlington, Massachusetts, Greene, Vermont, West Palm Beach, Florida, the Lower Hudson Valley, New York, very hot Switzerland. We know there's heat waves happening all over. Dexter, Michigan, Sweden, Seacliff, seaside community on the North Shore of Long Island, New Jersey, the Maine coast, Vermont, slightly cooler in Boise, only 92 today. My goodness. New York City, Austining, and Denver, Colorado. Hello from Wisconsin, wonderful. And YouTube, Long Island, New York, wonderful. So we've got a really great connection here with a number of us, just checking in on all of our platforms. So thank you all for joining. And I'd like to just invite us into a little tiny practice just to land here today, and just noting the land that we come in from. And just as you connect to the little piece of earth that you may be on today, just remembering the people who may have lived here for many, many, many years before, and then also connecting into what this land calls for. I was a geography major actually in my undergrad, and when I did that, I did human geography, economic geography, cultural geography, and I think the way that humans are on the land is actually what the land asks for from us. And I just spent some time on Oahu working on a project, and in that as well, there was a connection to what is the land calling for? What is the land asking from us? So I just invite us to connect with the land that we're on today. Just take a deep breath and relax. Perhaps feel a little sense of uplift in the spine. And if there are any sounds in your place, just letting them come in, greeting them, and then letting them go. You can soften your gaze, not focusing on anything in particular in this moment. And just follow the breath as it moves in and out. You can deepen the breath, and when you're ready to reconnect, bringing your attention back to the screen from this place and just clicking on the top right corner of the view button, you can connect to the gallery, and we can see all of our faces here. So if you're not on video, now is the time, and we can just connect in. And as you do that, from this just beginning of opening space, connect with these wonderful faces and just send a warm welcome. Send a warm welcome to each other, and send a warm welcome with the whole body, from the roots connected to the floor and the earth, to the eyes and the arms, and there we go, the hands, bringing the whole body into it. Wonderful. Little hello, little warm welcome to each other. Wonderful. And then just thinking about what brought me here today. So typing into the chat, what brought me here today to connect with this incredible group of people. So you can type in directly, and perhaps it's something about the topic, about having courage, or perhaps it's about connecting with particular people. And just noting, on YouTube, we also had Rockport, Massachusetts, Brooklyn, New York, and very hot Austin, Texas. Beautiful. So as always, curiosity from Risa. My heart brought me here today. I always enjoy connecting with these fabulous women. The courage we need every day to show up for ourselves and each other and the planet. Inspiration and uplift in these hot days. Yes. Wanting to connect with community of practice. I'm interested in courage as a topic. Wanting to connect with women across the world who are all courageous. Yes. Wonderful. So there are a number of reasons that we all come together, and some of it is just about connecting with each other. Some of it is about just finding a little dose of inspiration. I know many of us come in week after week and just need this little time to reconnect, not only with each other, but also with ourselves. Marian says, life requires courage. Social interaction with other women, wonderful. So there are so many reasons that we come together in this way. And when we do, it's really about finding connection in a little bit of a world of chaos. Last week we had Dorian with us, and she shared some wonderful stories and practice with us, and a reminder about the volatility of our world and our capacity to live within that, and our capacity to show up within that. So we thought that this week, diving further into having courage and what that takes could be useful. So here we are. And I love this. It takes courage to be happy, here in the chat. So it really does. It takes courage to show up. It takes courage to be happy. Life takes courage itself. And when I was thinking about this topic, I was thinking about, well, really what it's about is fear, and the Women Together team, there's a social media person, friend, marketing person who put up the the quote that we often talk about, that um, that courage is about, that the voice of fear shows up, but we don't necessarily stay. We don't necessarily listen to that voice of fear all the time. So courage is about noting that the voice of fear is there, and then not not listening to it. And I think, as I started to think about fear, I thought, well, is courage actually in direct correlation to fear? Like, do I feel fear and then I feel courage? Or do I feel courageous sometimes and don't even feel fear? And, what is that really about? So I was just thinking about that. And I think that, there's a couple of resources that I go to, teachers in my life that I think about. And one of them is, I've brought in a lot from the Presencing Institute, which is Otto Scharmer and many others. And one of the things that Otto talks about is this open mind, open heart, open will practice, which we've done in our Women Together spaces a number of times. And as we do that open mind, open heart, open will practice, so we talk a little bit about the open mind, and that's directly correlated to curiosity. So how do I get to my open mind? Well, it's being curious, it's asking questions, it's looking for places that I don't know, it's looking for disconfirming data. And then we talk often about the open heart and having compassion. So we talk about, well, if I can have compassion for what someone else is going through, if I can have compassion for suffering in the world, that takes me to my open heart. So those two are directly connected. And then comes this one about open will. So with open will, I find that it's the space just below the belly button. And one of my teachers and friends, Martin Kalungubanda, he talks about this space just below the belly button. And he talks about how Nelson Mandela, when having to make a decision that would affect the nation, turned around and connected to this space, this gap, this moment of letting go and letting come. And that space, just being in that open space, takes courage. So this courage is then what allowed him to act. And courage, I find, is not so much a mental thing. It's not so much something that if I can just be curious, then I'll find courage. Or if I can be compassionate, then no. In one sense, it might be that there's a gateway, like a path of, oh, if I start with open will and I recognize it's okay that I don't know right now. I don't know, and that's okay. And I don't need to know. I find that I'm a person that I really need to know. I go to work and I really need to know. And the other person who I look to is Brene Brown, and she talks a lot about courage, and she has a documentary about courage, and she has books about daring and bravery and all these things. And at the core of what she talks about is the act of being vulnerable. And she talks about how the root of the word courage is the word core, which is heart. So actually, what she talks about is letting down our armor. That courage is about letting down the armor that we hold around the heart. And what I was thinking about a little bit is our culture of needing to know, and our culture of kind of, I have the answer and I've got it. And this experience of, which happens for me all the time, when there are moments where people are like, so what do we do? Or let's brainstorm, or let's come up with the solution. Or, just thinking about things, I'm like, okay, I got it. Here's one, and that just act of, first of all, it could be an act of courage to speak, to share that. But it could be an act of courage for many of us to sit back and say, I don't know, let me listen for a minute. Because in our culture, it takes a lot of courage to actually step back from that. It takes a lot of courage to step back from this need to know environment and atmosphere. So all of that to say, thinking about open mind, open heart, open will. thinking about what it takes to stay with this space, is letting go and letting come, this gap between. So in Nelson Mandela's case, he gets the information and then he pauses, he stops, and he lets come what's needed next in the moment. So earlier I talked a little bit about what does the land ask of us, and many of us have been in gardens over the last few weeks and months, and the land asks for something. The land says what it wants if we listen. And so does the body, right? We talk a lot about that in here. The body will tell us what it wants if we listen. And so as we take these moments to really deeply listen, can we have the open mind to be curious? Can we have the open heart, which probably relates a lot to, can we have the open will? And can we be with what is wanting to happen and just pause long enough to feel into it? And yes, the voice of fear is definitely connected to that. So Francis said here, when I feel afraid is usually when I speak up or do something radical. And so it's an interesting correlation, right? Listening to the voice of fear. Do I listen to the voice of fear and react to it? Or do I listen to the voice of fear and say, okay, thank you for being here. Let's have a little conversation with each other and take action from the place that's actually really the right action in that moment. So that's what I'll invite us into, a little tiny practice now. We'll just do a little bit of meditation and then we'll journal. And we'll just connect into that voice of fear a little bit. So just connect into, what does that voice of fear mean for me? How do I connect in with that? And where is that kind of open will? Where is that space that I need to take? So I'll invite you to get into a comfortable position. So if that means getting your feet on the floor, that's a great place to start. And then just feeling a sense of uplift in the spine as we did earlier. Deepening the breath, inhaling, filling the belly, filling the chest and the collarbones. And exhaling everything out completely. One more time, filling the belly, filling the chest and the collarbones. And again, exhaling out completely. And as you continue to take a moment to connect to the breath, just feeling the breath moving in and out of the body, allowing the breath to move to the feet. So as you inhale, almost as if the feet are pulling the oxygen in through your nose. So the feet are pulling the air all the way in and down the body. Perhaps feeling the feet connected to the floor, connected to the earth, just feeling a sense of rootedness and groundedness. And as you exhale, on the next exhale, bringing the attention and the awareness up the back of the body, up the spine, and up to the crown of the head, and just feeling the space just above the crown of the head. The little space just above the crown of the head. And how the crown of the head is connected to the sky. So just feeling both a connection to the earth and to the sky. Feeling a sense of just above us, this place of limitless possibility. Open expanse. Just feeling complete sense of openness in the mind's eye. Once that feels a little clearer, just connecting the awareness, the attention to the space around the heart. Just noticing if there's any feeling there, any sensation. Perhaps you can bring in a sense of caring, perhaps connecting to someone that you care for, that cares for you, and just feeling that sense of care. And if we can extend that sense of care and compassion to someone who may be suffering in the world, perhaps it's someone you know, perhaps someone you don't know. And just extending a sense of care and a sense of may you be free from suffering. And then perhaps extending that care and attention to the land that you may be on today. Perhaps sensing the soil and the earth, anything that may be growing there. Maybe there's a body of water near you. Just connecting into the streams, the lakes, the oceans. And sending also, may you be free from suffering. And then bringing the awareness back to this little self here, the one who is sitting. Maybe wishing her a little, may she be free from suffering. And then bringing the awareness to the space just below the belly button, the space of intuition, the space of courage. Oftentimes, if we have an important question, this space will give us just a solid yes or no. Just feeling into that space that has this very strong sense, this strong sense of what's going on. It may not have a lot of words here. Just being with that space just below the belly button. And from this place, we draw courage. From this place, we draw a sense of knowing what is a yes and what is a no for us. Maybe something very simple, not needing to know all the details, not needing to know all the stories or the gossip, but just this clear, deep gut sense. And when you're ready, you can reconnect to the space around you and perhaps find a journal, a writing utensil, so maybe a pen and paper. And just writing down anything that came up in this drop into the open mind, open heart, open will. So just writing down anything that came up for you in this time. And I also appreciate what's happening in the chat, that there's a little building on each other conversation, which I think is very relevant, that the space can be where we search for our acceptance. And then a question, acceptance for ourselves. And then the note that fear shines a light on what needs our acceptance of what is as it is. So when we have that conversation with the voice of fear, often that voice of fear is giving us a notification. It's like a little phone notification. It is saying, hey, this is where we need to do some work. This is where we need to let come, let go and let come. So be with what is. And I love Doreen's comment here, the answer resides under my navel. So just writing down whatever came up for you. And perhaps noting for yourself, what happens for me when I let the voice of fear take over? Do I shut down? Do I react? Do I get super fiery? So what happens when I let the voice of fear take over? You can just jot down whatever comes to mind. What happens when I let the voice of fear take over? And then perhaps building on that, how can I create this inner safety or inner openness for myself? Often we look to somebody else to say, make it safe for me to speak, make it safe for me to know the right answer, make it safe for me to hold my armor up. So this is not about a safety by creating a defense mechanism. It's about actually letting that go and having a safety to allow what is wanting to move through to come through. So a safety to be open, a safety to be vulnerable. So that has to come from within. So how can I create this inner openness? How can I create inner safety for myself? Perhaps it's a tiny practice. I need to connect with my gut every morning, or perhaps it is more more of a feeling. How can I create this inner openness? And what happens for me when I connect to this openness? What happens? Am I able to connect more with the people around me? Am I able to speak my truth? Am I able to be more expressive in the world? Those are some of the things for me. I also think that I become a better listener. I become a better listener when I'm really truly open. I'm not trying to know the right answer all the time. I can become a better listener. So just noting what comes up for you. And then we'll take a good 20 minutes to just be together. And you can share anything that came up about this practice, about anything that came up in your journaling. I love the pieces in the chat here. Enlightenment is often described as the regular practice of noticing when we are off. Fear is like pain from Patricia. They both have purposes. Once recognized, they can be managed. More exquisite self-care will help create that inner safety for openness from Deborah. I am better able to move toward balance. So we'll get to share more of these in the, I love also coming into the YouTube. Thank you, YouTube family here. The peace and connection this group brings for me, and greetings. I love it. Intentional connection with women, with my most authentic and best self, a warrior for the good, together we are. Wonderful. So we'll give it about 20 minutes, and we will connect with each other and just holding the space. I know that often when we go to connect with other people, we immediately put the armor back up. We're able to do this in our own space, but part of the practice is actually to keep this sense of openness. So keep this sense of not knowing. And I often say, we don't know what the person in front of us had for breakfast, let alone what their life story has been or what they might have been through in these last few minutes in this practice. So just really making space for people, introducing ourselves and connecting, and just sharing what's coming up for you as you move through this practice and consider what would it take to have a little more courage in my life. So enjoy the time together. We'll be back in 20 minutes.